Hello you guys, this is Morpheus with part 5 of the Warlock Demonology PvP guide for 5.4.7. And this one is about Chaos Wave versus Hand of Gul'Dan, but also about Mastery versus Crit. The thing is, I went, in the last episode I said, go full Crit, and I went back full Mastery. The thing is, both have their pros and cons. And I don't know at the moment what is better anymore. I just know that they have certain pros, certain cons, and I think it's fair to say that you should make up your mind, because it's very much depending on playstyle, I guess, and personal preference, and maybe also about comp. Anyways, so let's go to Mastery. Mastery gives you more damage in Metamorphosis due to scaling. It's just pure scaling. If I stack full crit, my Metamorphosis adds like 65% extra damage without Dark Soul. However, if I stack into full Mastery, it's about 81% or something, or a bit more. I don't know. It's pretty high, and it might be actually higher than that. But it's way more. Okay, so that's like 15 or 20% extra damage. Just boom. But your crit is of course a lot lower, so you might not crit. Now you also get more demon pet damage, which is of course a big deal for Demonology, and since in burst you have 2 pets and imps, that might scale, pretty well, so that you do more damage with those guys as well. You get stronger Chaos Waves. Now I don't use Chaos Wave anymore, or not a lot, but that might come back actually, and I will explain why. But it does, Chaos Wave does scale with Mastery, so if you still use Chaos Wave, I would say go Mastery, I guess. More survivability if you go tank form. Well, it's something I don't use at the moment, but if you're FC, then Mastery might be a good choice for you. It adds damage, pet damage, and also survivability, so it's a good overall thing to pick. Possibly better peak damage output. The thing is, 2 Chaos Waves in burst are sudden. It's instant. It's like boom, bam, bam, And Hand of Gul'Dan is, a dot. Mastery benefits, Chaos Wave benefits from Mastery. So if you go for full Mastery and you use Chaos Wave, you might have better peak damage output. The thing is, well, I'm gonna discuss that like later in this guide, but that's just a possibility. Then we go to Crit. Crit is definitely more better overall, better sustain, at least that's what I tested. Of course, your Metamorphosis will give you less damage, but you will crit more often. And for example, in the case you use Chaos Wave, it might crit more, and Chaos Wave, if it crits, it hurts like hell, of course. Not as much as it used to do, but it still hurts. Still, the Chaos Wave will be, less strong than with full Mastery. Anyways, but crit also affects Hand of Gul'Dan, and because you normally use Hand of Gul'Dan in burst, I would say crit might be a good choice. However, you don't get the extra demon pet damage and stuff like that. The burst is still good because you crit more often, so your overall damage is good. Your burst is also still good because of Hand of Gul'Dan skills with crit, and and Chaos Wave also crits more, which is a plus, although it's less strong than with full Mastery. Did way more damage in test on dummies, that's true. I tested on the PTR against dummies with Mastery and crit won every time in damage. And this might be because it's more overall, because it was like a 20-second test or something, or a 30-second test. And a crit might have won because of the overall damage, although it still had a very high peak damage as well. So I really don't know anymore at this point. I would like to ask you guys to also maybe test the difference if you have enough money to respec and regem and stuff. Test it out for yourself and post it under this video what you found did more damage. And then it can be against a target dummy or a player, but post your statistics, because the more statistics we have and the more players we have, we can actually find out together what the best way is. Anyways, so it did more damage on target dummies at least, but it might scale different with players, and because players only have 500k HP and target dummies have endless amount of HP, it might be better to have a short boom, a short peak damage, with 2 Chaos Waves or something in full Mastery. and you know, but maybe if you go on a healer all the time, then maybe crit and Hand of Gul'Dan might be better choice. It's really complicated. It's not easy. So more damage in a 20-second burst. Yeah, maybe. Anyways, it's a real hard decision to go for Mastery Full or Crit Full, as they both have pros and cons, and at this moment I really don't know anymore which one is per se better. Actually, it might be situational, so crit might be better at some moments in a fight, and crit might be better at some Mastery might be better, or crit might be better in some moments in the fight. Even during one fight, it might be, you know, it might change what is better or not. And anyways, at this moment, personally, I'm Mastery again, but yeah, I might switch back to crit. You know, I don't know yet. Let's go over to the other section of this guide. So now we come to the Chaos Wave versus Hand of Gul'Dan story, which is also a complicated story, I would say. So first of all, let's go to Chaos Wave. Chaos Wave does high damage, especially if it crits. You know, if it crits, it actually, like a few days ago, I did a 120k crit against a DK, but you know, he probably didn't have full gear. But still, you know, it's probably 80k plus if it crits. And you know, it's sudden, so it's boom boom 80k or 100k, and that's pretty good. Especially if you go Mastery. So here we have the crit Mastery story again, which is why it's also this part of the guide. In this part of the guide, it costs Fury quite a lot, which is a big disadvantage. So you need like 400 plus Demonic Fury at least to burst. And the problem is, if you enter an arena, your trinket is not proc checked yet. If you build a Fury, then it will proc, and you need to wait another minute for the internal cooldown of the trinket to reset. So if you want to line up your burst with 2 trinkets, then you need to wait 1 minute after the fight starts to burst, which is a long time. By then, though, you have a lot of Demonic Fury and you have your trinket back and you can burst insanely. But sometimes you want to burst instantly. Just when you come out of the arena, you see an opportunity, and then you burst, and your trinket procs and everything. Then I would say, you know, use Hand of Gul'Dan at all times, but I will explain that later. So, you need at least 400 plus Demonic Fury to burst. Skills with Mastery, so does not need to crit for high damage. You know, if you have a lot of Mastery, it already hurts a lot. If it doesn't crit as well, preferably it should crit, of course. It counts as physical damage, and this is the biggest pro, I would say. It goes through AMS and anti-magic shield from the DK, or it goes through Cloak of Shadows. So it's really Chaos Wave. I use it now as situational stuff. Like I use Chaos Wave when I think I need sudden damage, or I use Chaos Wave when I need to burst through AMS or Cloak of Shadows. Or I use Chaos Wave against target with low HP, you know, that has like 150k, and then you kind of know if I now do burst in 2 Chaos Wave, he's dead in like 2 seconds or something. Whereas if I do it with Hand of Gul'Dan, it takes probably more time to kill him, but the damage output would be higher. So, you know, if someone is already almost dead, then Chaos Wave might be better to finish him off, you know, because it's faster to do it. Then let's go to Hand of Gul'Dan, which also has a lot of plus points, or whatever, pros. Good damage, it doesn't need to crit, it's always good damage. It's slower dot damage, but it still ticks during your burst. So if you go into Metamorphosis and spam Touch of Chaos, which is basically your burst, it will still tick on. So, you know, your peak damage is also quite high, but it will be later in the burst. Like with Chaos Wave, the peak damage is really at the beginning. And with Hand of Gul'Dan, it's more, you know, towards, well, not towards the middle, but after like a few seconds, then it's the peak damage. The problem with this is that it's less sudden, so people can predict it more. You know, they see you go into Metamorphosis, they see Dark Soul and 2 Hand of Gul'Dans, and then they see you spamming, you know, or actually then you go into Metamorphosis and spam Touch of Chaos. They can see it, and they can, you know, pop Bark Skin or, I don't know, some other defenses, wall, shield wall, you know. They can react to that. But if you go into meta boom boom Chaos Wave, they might be too slow, although I doubt it. But it's more sudden, you know, it's less expected. And also, you know, the peak damage is at the start, so if you really combine it with the mage pretty well, it might be better. It might. It's just two different playstyles. So builds of Fury, this is the biggest pro. So your burst is longer. So Hand of Gul'Dan is a dot that builds a Fury. So while you're bursting, you actually still get Fury from the ticks of Hand of Gul'Dan. And you also, of course, apply Curse of Elements and Corruption. Corruption also gives you Fury. Your Imps give you Fury. And your 2 pets give you Fury. So your Fury generation, while you're actually bursting, is really, really high. But Chaos Wave, because it costs Demonic Fury, you really need a lot of Fury to start with. And also, because you don't have Hand of Gul'Dan that builds a Fury for you, the Fury build-up is slower during your burst. And it will be over quite soon if you don't have a lot of Fury. At least that's my experience. And with Hand of Gul'Dan, it's the total opposite. You know, you can burst from start. 200 Demonic Fury is really enough to burst for like 15 seconds almost. It's like incredible. If you do it correctly, you can burst a really long time with Hand of Gul'Dan twice before you burst. Of course, you pop all your cooldowns and then Hand of Gul'Dan twice, because otherwise Hand of Gul'Dan doesn't do any damage. So you pop your cooldowns, Hand of Gul'Dan, just like I explained in the last video in part 4 about the burst, you know. Anyways. Mastery effects, Metamorphosis, and you cast Hand of Gul'Dan while in caster form. So, in fact, Mastery doesn't affect Hand of Gul'Dan, you would say. So crit might be more useful if you never use Chaos Wave. But I say use Chaos Wave and Hand of Gul'Dan depending on what moment in the arena you are, depending on the situation, depending on your opponents. So for example, in the beginning of the arena, if your trinket procs in the first 10 seconds, I would say use double Hand of Gul'Dan in your burst. But if you're already like 2 minutes in the arena or 4, and you have like 500 Demonic Fury, I would say go double Chaos Wave. You know, that's something you could do. The thing is, it used to be like this, that if you went into Metamorphosis before the second Hand of Gul'Dan lands on the target, actually the Hand of Gul'Dan still benefited from the extra damage of Metamorphosis. The thing is, I tested it and it didn't seem to be working anymore. And if it would still be working, then Mastery would also affect Hand of Gul'Dan. But I don't know, I think they disabled that, or they fixed it kind of. I think it was like a bug or something. It might have still affect the dot damage, like if you go into meta, and then it might skill, you know, after a few seconds maybe. But that is some, you know, more into depth shit that I haven't tested yet. But anyways, I think overall crit might benefit Hand of Gul'Dan a bit more than Mastery. That's what I'm thinking at least. So it's now we come to another point about Hand of Gul'Dan, is that it's magical dot damage. So great versus hunters, as it will as it will tick during the turns, okay? For example, if you play, you know, I play with a mage a lot, you know, I love that. But if you play with an holy DK and just, you know, or something else with dots, you probably go on the hunter a lot. And if you then, I would say don't use Chaos Wave then, but use Hand of Gul'Dan twice, and then he deterrences. But if he still has your Hand of Gul'Dan dots on him, in combination with like the unholy DK dots, he will probably die if he is low HP. And even if he deterrences, he will still die if he was at low HP when he deterrenced, you know? Because the dots still hurt, and they might kill him. So, yeah, this is like the end of the guide already. Or actually already, it's like, it has been like 12-13 minutes or something. So Chaos Wave, Hand of Gul'Dan, it's really up to the opponents, the moment, how much fury you have, if they pop any defensives like Cloak of Shadows or AMS. If you're facing a hunter, go Hand of Gul'Dan. If you're stacking full crit, then maybe Hand of Gul'Dan always. If you're stacking Mastery, then you might use Chaos Wave a bit more often, which I'm gonna try out now in arenas. And yeah, this is really the breakdown of Hand of Gul'Dan and Chaos Wave. I hope this helps. I hope this helps you determine when to use Chaos Wave and when to use Hand of Gul'Dan. I'm sorry that our class isn't fucking phased roll like some classes, and that you can just do Chaos Wave all the time, which it used to be in 5.1, I guess. But because Demo is not in the best shape, it comes down to, you know, small differences and getting extra damage, you know, it's It's really not that easy to just go for one thing. That's also why mastery or crit is a whole debate. You know, what is better, full mastery or full crit? At least for me, it's a debate. Sorcery said that he went full mastery anyways, and he thinks crit is not that good. But I see some advantages in crit that he might not see. I don't know, maybe he also sees it actually. He actually said it was also situational, so he might understand. Anyways, he probably does understand. What am I talking about? Anyways, this was the guide. Please, if you test crit and mastery, both on a target dummy or a player, on the same player please, and you have to burst exactly the same way, be sure to leave a comment down below which says which is better. So I want to know what kind of damage you did, what peak damage you had, and how many seconds it costs you to kill a player, for example. If you go against a target dummy, then just start counting your damage or something, or actually just, you know, open recount. Make sure that you proc your trinket. You can do that by spamming Hellfire and also activating your Heal Dark Regeneration. Then your trinket might proc very soon. Then you start bursting, but first apply Curse of Elements and Corruption. Then you do your burst with Hand of Gul'Dan or something, for example, if you don't have any Fury. I would say Hand of Gul'Dan. And maybe also test it with Chaos Wave actually. And then leave a comment below what kind of damage you had in a 20-second time frame. So when Dark Soul ends, then you stop counting the damage, or then you just, you know, disengage to fight, and you look at your damage, see how much damage you did. Also watch out for your peak damage. My peak damage is normally around 400k DPS per second against a target dummy when I'm bursting, so that's something, but it actually might be way higher if you do some other shit, I don't know. Just leave a comment about that. That would be really appreciated by the whole community of Demonology Warlocks, because we all need to know what is better. And I just don't have the time to do like 1,000 tests in different circumstances and conditions and see what is better in what case and if it's better against a player or whatnot. So thank you for watching. Hope this helps you out, and see you guys next time for part 6, where I discuss probably my key bindings, add-ons, macros, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, stay tuned. Morpheus out.